10 minutes into a 60-minute presentation, I realized that somebody might need to call 911. Not for the audience, but for me. I looked amazing, I sounded confident, but somewhere inside my 6-inch heels, I was convinced that my pinky toe was no longer connected to my foot. And while I was speaking, I was also silently calculating if I would need minor foot surgery or if I should just throw the whole entire foot away. I thought that the extra height would make me feel bigger and taller on stage because I'm only 5 foot tall, but my plan backfired. And now I was in massive pain because of the small decision I made to wear these 6-inch heels on stage. Honestly, I don't even remember 90% of what I said that day. But what I do remember is this: me trying to appear bigger on stage almost cost me a bunion. And that's when I realized, instead of going big, I wish I had the audacity to go small. A few months later, I was getting ready to host this women's conference. In one hand, I held a brand new pair of 6-inch heels. In the other hand, a pair of low-top, multicolor Air Max Nike sneakers. And as I was standing there, internally fighting for my life and the life of my pinky toe, there was a woman standing next to me watching the whole entire thing. And that's when she did something unexpected. She leaned over and whispered these 4 words: "Put the sneakers on." And I did. It was a small decision, but one that would drastically change how I would become an innovator in my industry. That day, I just didn't change my shoes. I changed my entire belief system that innovation had to be born from something big. And that small observation led me to asking a bigger question. What if some of the biggest breakthroughs in our cities, in our lives, in our career is not waiting for us to go big, but waiting for us to have the audacity to go small and maximize what others are missing? But why are we so obsessed with going big? Why do we assume that innovation only comes from big companies, big ideas, and big influencers? We've been taught that going big means doing more and pushing harder. But what if that's exactly the mentality that's holding us back? We live in a culture that glorifies scale. We hear it and see it everywhere. Go big or go home. Dream big, don't play small. And over time, we start to believe that bigger means better. Bigger means more creative, and bigger even means more innovative. But what if innovation didn't start big? Matter of fact, what if innovation just led to more complexity, more pressure to perform, more adversity, and even more burnout? I boldly believe that innovation does not start with expansion. Sometimes it starts with reduction. So what if the biggest breakthrough that we all need is not waiting for us to go bigger? What if it's waiting for us to go smaller and maximize what others are missing? Now, when I talk about the audacity to go small, I'm not talking about shrinking or lowering your standards. I'm talking about noticing the small things, listening to the small, still voice, and letting small be your superpower. Because at the end of the day, many of us are missing our blessings because we're too focused on trying to go big. When I audited my life, one big truth kept emerging. The biggest breakthroughs, the massive shifts didn't start big. They started small, with a detail, a discomfort, a difference that I almost overlooked. It was a small decision for me to wear those sneakers on stage, but it allowed me to show up in a big way. And that's when I realized something that rocked my world and blew my mind. Small is not insignificant. Small is often where significance begins. The audacity to go small is not about you lowering your standards or you choosing the easy way out. It really is about noticing what others are missing and leaning into that and allowing that to be your superpower. Now, the audacity to go big and the idea that it can birth big results is happening all around us in big companies and big corporations, as well as in our personal and our professional lives as well. Many of us in this room are familiar with the product, the Post-it note. Now, what you might not know about the Post-it note is the Post-it note exists because a scientist had a big idea to create a super strong adhesive and accidentally created a weak one. At first, it was considered too small, a failure, and not useful. But somebody on the team asked a small question. What else could we use this for? And that small, tiny observation led to the Post-it note becoming one of the biggest, big global billion-dollar products. Now, the audacity to go small is not just limited to big companies and big corporations. It works for you and me as well. In the best-selling book, Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about how massive breakthroughs and big change don't start big. They start small, with small habits, small repetition, and small things repeated on a daily basis. And that's how you birth big results in your life. When I talk about the audacity to go small, it's not about you shrinking. It's about noticing the small things, listening to the small, still voice, and make sure you're intentional about seeing the small things that other people are overlooking that you can see, but more importantly, you can maximize. Because small is where innovation begins. Small is where originality is born. Small is smarter. Now, you might be thinking in your mind, I have a couple of small ideas. How do I know if the right small idea will birth big results in my business, my life, my career, or even in my relationship? Well, I want you to give your small idea the 3S test by asking yourself these 3 small questions. Number 1, is the idea simple? Is it scary? And is it strange? Is the idea simple enough to explain with clarity? Is it scary enough to require courage to execute? And is it strange enough to go against the grain on what everyone else says you should be doing, especially if you're from a small city? Because at the end of the day, that is what makes your idea small but powerful. Small ideas don't start big in the beginning. They look small, they look unusual, they look different, and that's exactly the point. To be completely honest with you, me wearing sneakers on stage was never about me making a fashion statement, although I do look fabulous. It was a small, tiny decision that will allow me to show up and super serve audiences in a big way. So maybe the idea that you're thinking about, the business that you want to birth, or the city that you want to expand is not waiting for you to have the courage to go bigger. Maybe it's waiting for you to have the wisdom to go smaller. At the end of the day, big is not going anywhere. Matter of fact, some of the inventors and pioneers and trailblazers, they didn't start big, they started small. And they were able to execute the ideas that were in their head. So when big rolls its big ugly head back around, because it will, when big tries to back you in the corner, when big is breathing down your throat, and when big is questioning you, or you have a big decision to make, I want you to ask yourself 1 small question. Do I have the audacity to go small? Thank you.